Hello.
How are you doing, Ash? It's good to have you on the stream now.
I am doing so great. I'm very happy to be here and looking forward to having an awesome conversation with you about these games today.
Folks, if you did not know, this is actually episode 2. Our first ever episode was on Ash's channel, and on that channel, we tackled the platformer genre. Ash brought so much amazing information to the field, and we're hoping to do the same thing again tonight, but with brawlers. So Ash, which brawler did you bring to the table for those that aren't reading, they're only listening maybe?
I brought the very exciting and very amazing Streets of Rage, which, you know, honestly, as a kid growing up, I knew nothing about. And until I started exploring the world of Twitch and meeting people who had experiences on other game consoles, that's kind of when I learned about it. But when I learned about it, I loved it so much. I was like, this has got to be the one that I talk about today.
And I'm so glad what's been interesting thus far. We'll see if up until when we do different genres of games, we have yet to collide on a game like, oh no, I want to do that one. Well, excuse me. So it's been really cool that we've had different wants for different games to get out there. There's so many different awesome games already. A few of these ones, be it classic or maybe hidden gems that people might not know that much about, or we're kind of uncovering a stone of nostalgia for them.
I feel like Streets of Rage is like really well known. The Sega Genesis didn't see the same type of success maybe like the Nintendo did and stuff like that. There was a lot of information to find out, a lot of really cool developer information to find out about. Might have gone overlooked because the popularity might not have been as high. Something, and even within that genre, Street Fighter and stuff like that. So
I'm so excited. For those that don't know the format, we're going to be talking about 6 different topics, and those topics are controls, art, music, lore, dev story, and then our personal interest overall in the game. All right, Ash, are you ready to tackle this thing?
I am so ready.
All right, folks, it's my stream over here. I guess I'll start with the game action first a little bit. We're going to be talking about Turtles 4, and we're going to be talking about the controls aspect first. So what's really cool about this game, and a lot of people might not know, I want to preface this because a lot of people get confused. Is there only one Turtles 4 game? Is there multiple? Are there fakes? What's happening here? And when it comes to Turtles 4 actually does have 3 iterations. You have the arcade game called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time. We'll explain that later. We have Turtles 4, Turtles in Time. A lot of y'all to this channel expect to see that game. I've played it numerous times by myself or with Posty. So that's Turtles 4, and that's for the Super Nintendo. But Genesis came out with its own as well, and that one, though, is called Hyperstone Heist. So that one's called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, the Hyperstone Heist. It's a brawler. So a brawler's not dealing with platform-like jumps. Like we were talking about games like Mega Man and Wizards and Warriors last time around, was that you have to worry about when you jump, do you fall back down? How easy is it to control your character in the air? Well, that's not a worry here. You can jump. That's, you know, you got all these different actionable things that you can do. Let's actually read off what you might be able to do in the game. So controls that you have are expected, such as jumping, attacking, as well as a powerful jump attack when things seem to be a little bit too hectic to cope with. But it must be used sparingly as it connects with the foe and does a slight amount of damage to your health meter. You can dash and shoulder ram enemies. You can perform slides to bowl over groups of assailants. Attacking enemies repeatedly will perform a small combo while holding the attack button while an enemy is stunned. From your first few hits will grab the arm and then hurl him towards the screen. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Makes for a pretty amusing effect until a certain boss battle from the enemy's point of view, where you actually have to use it to beat the boss. Going back onto these controls here, I speedrun this game, and that's actually what you're seeing right now over here. It's a co-op speedrun as in the background. When it comes to this, what's so cool about this game, once you really get to know it, you can combo every single thing that you do in the game, and none of the enemies have to hit you. But of course, the enemy's AI, as a part of it, they're going to try to stop that. They don't want you to succeed. The AI on any quarter munching style game, any arcade style game, they want to get some cheap shots in there. They want to make a reason for you to have to put quarters back into the machine. That same idea a lot of the times also went into the rented video game market, because I remember last time I was on Ash's stream for this content that we dealt with the same idea of talking about games being harder, and so therefore, so you'd have to run it again and run it again and run it again before you finally beat it. Well, the idea still comes into play here. So you might not be using quarters, but you didn't beat it the first time. Oh, you only got a 1-day rental? Oh my goodness, you're gonna have to rent it again. Those factors came into play. To go along with this, what was really cool about the game, every single turtle actually has different damage values. If you look down here on the screen, Leonardo, Michelangelo, Donatello, and Raphael all have same looking movesets, but different amounts of damage attached to them. You can see here that certain turtles have better damage, that they just are stronger than other turtles. If you also notice kind of in the finer detail over here, that each turtle has a different amount of health and a different amount of movement and attack speed. And then what was also really cool is that each different foot soldier, their color scheme normally attributed a different type of attack effect that they would have, but also they had different amounts of varying health. And those are really cool aspects to learn about this game.
I wonder if, I know that you speed run this game, each one of them has different health, each one of them has different reach because they all have different weapons and stuff.
Yep.
Does it feel like each one of them has different hit boxes?
Excellent thing that you're bringing up there with their different hitboxes. The turtles don't have different hitboxes as far as them getting hit by enemies. You said when it came to the reach, now their hitbox for hitting has extended. When that happens, the best example of this would be someone like a Donatello. Donatello has the bow staff, which is the longest reach in the game. In the process of doing that, there's a whole animation that's coming into play here as a part of the controls. If the foot soldier decides to grab you before you make contact on a foot soldier, it does take away your attack. So in that exact moment in time, their hitbox is bigger. So
Interesting.
Great question. That was a superb question to ask. It's not all the time, but it is relevant in some circumstances that their hitbox becomes bigger.
Yeah, when it comes to like a game like this, I'm the type of person that tends to like be a button masher, where people who really are really good at beat 'em ups, there is actually a lot of strategy and understanding the moves, which is something that's the reason why I kind of like stayed away from like a lot of brawlers and stuff like that, is because like, having to memorize like all the move sets and stuff is like it's a lot of work. So I tend to just mash the buttons, which kind of makes it fun for me. But then like when you understand each character has a different hitbox, a different move style, a different like weapon, then you can kind of start to plan out the strategy, and then figuring that out doesn't become so hard.
Exactly right. What's so cool about this game as a speedrun compared to other brawlers that are fun to co-op with your friends, I think one of the best thing about brawler games is the real co-op aspect of it, is being able to play. Nowadays with the whole things like these Parsec and other different types of collections that are coming out that allow you to play multiplayer without being in the same room. As a kid, even nowadays, as a grown adult, I love the idea of playing a couch co-op game with a friend. It just, this type of title, it allows for that. There's not that many buttons. What was really cool about this game when it came to it, you only had 2 buttons, attack and jump. Now you're like, but Jen, there's a lot, you're doing a lot more than attack and jump. I mean, we can see it on the screen down here. The attack and jump, now from there's so many different combinations you could do. You could even change on the Super Nintendo. You couldn't do this on the arcade. On the Super Nintendo, you could change your button setup, then therefore add a 3rd button. That 3rd button would now be a dedicated special or super button. To hit both buttons at the same time, you have an extra one that you're gonna go ahead and go boop, and now it's gonna do your super move, whatever super move, depending on the character you're using. That gives you more to use at your disposal. Once you turn off on this game, you have the option of leaving the game as an automatic dash, or you could go ahead and put it as a manual dash, and now you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna start double tapping. You would think for a lot of people, they find that to be extremely difficult, doing this double tap. But once you get enough practice in, you never wanna go back. You can make your characters engage with enemies so quickly, and anything else just feels so slow and so hard to deal with. You're like, you know what? Like, how can I get to this guy? He keeps on doing a cheap shot every time. But when you have the sprint element into it, you are able to now just engage right away and stop them from their special moves, stop them from their super sneaky moves before they are there. And it just really adds to it. Who is the best speed running individual of the turtles, if there is one? If you look on this screen down here, right now you see that there is a Raphael and a Donatello. So those are your 2 best turtles in Turtles in Time to use from a speedrunning aspect. Now, if you're playing this solo, the best run is Raphael. And the reason why is Raphael does the most damage. Back up on the screen. Raph does the most damage and has the highest damage value. If you see that one that's in purple, that's a 20 spot. That damage value is the most you can do in the game for one single move.
Wow. Oh, that's his dash attack. I see.
You're like, wait a second, where's Donatello? We glitched the game to break it so we could have 2 Raphaels. And thus having 2 Raphaels, you are now doing the most damage possible in a co-op fashion.
What? Yo, all the things that you've got to think about when you're talking about speed running a game, man, or all the things that are available to you. I'm always learning so much just by like doing things, because it's like, oh my gosh, that's really cool.
Now, when you're playing casually, it's tough to use someone like Raphael because Raphael's a glass cannon.
Oh.
Tons of damage, right? But has the least amount of health. Now, the turtle with the most amount of health is actually Michelangelo. And Michelangelo actually has a decent amount of damage. So if you're playing casually, Michelangelo's a very, very safe option. And you're still gonna do, even if you're button mashing, you're gonna still actually do a bunch of good damage as Michelangelo in a casual sense. Absolutely.
Gotcha. Basically, if I play this game, I gotta be Michelangelo. That's basically what you're saying.
If you were like, hey, I just want to jump into this thing, I don't want to have to try too hard, I would say go ahead and be Mikey, and you're like, you know what? Yeah, I'm digging this. I'm digging this.
I love it. No, yeah, I can't be squishy. I'm the kind of person when I'm playing a game like this, even though I should learn to play a little more defensively, actually use the block button, I just like to run head into battle and just like mash the button, you know?
Don't know a game? That is exactly my way of playing it too. I'm like, just let me dive in head first. Let's see what happens. Hopefully it's good, but if it doesn't work out that way, oh well.
We're just gonna go in and have fun, and I'll learn about the strats later.
Who's gonna try to block in these types of games? You know, forget that nonsense. Attack, ow. Attack, ow. You know.
I didn't know that each turtle had different damage, and I didn't even know that they had different health values.
And movement speed too. Like just the turtle walking on the screen right now, if you're playing as someone like Donatello, you're gonna see Donatello has a really slow recovery rate. He moves actually really, really. Raphael just glides across the screen without even having to sprint.
Wow.
All those little things start to add up. And so there's other times when you might be playing, you're like, I want to try the different characters. And sometimes you're like, oh, this character's really good. Well, this character's not really good. But sometimes you don't know why they're not really good. And oh, that's why that happened to me. I didn't even realize it.
That's funny that you said that. I do think things like that. That is exactly what's going on in my mind. I picked this character. Oh, I don't really like him. I don't know why. This one's better.
You know what? This isn't just a turtle stream. I think we need a little bit of that Streets of Rage action. Just saying.
Yes, there's so much to know about the controls of Streets of Rage. Just like you were talking about before, each character has different movement. But before I get into that, some of the things that you can do in the game, I'm going to start off with Streets of Rage 1. All of the movements and the actions that you can take are pretty consistent throughout each game. So there's not a lot of new things that they add, except the way some of the characters move. And there's a difference between Streets of Rage 1 and Streets of Rage 2. They wanted to add in, they had to take out some stuff out of the game in order to add it in. In Streets of Rage 1, you have your simple jab, which is like the one button punch, because there's the attack button, and then there's a special move button, and then there's the jump button, and then there's the base combo, which is my favorite move to do, attack button 4 times. What's cool about that, if you use this attack, it works the best with Axel, who's that guy, the blonde guy right there. You could kind of stun lock some of the enemies that you're fighting. I don't really think it's a cheat, but some people might say like, oh, that's kind of like a cheat or whatever, but you could punch them, kind of get them like stunted in that movement, and then as long as you time it correctly, that's useful for me as a noob. So when I found out about that, I will be using that move all the time. They won't break out of it. There's the jump kick, this attack and midair jump. There's the rare throw, and in here, in this gameplay that you see here, this is actually gameplay that I took playing Blaze for, I think there's like a 30-minute cycle. You can see there's examples of all of this, and some of them I did by accident. I was just kind of like moving around with the controls. Oh man, I just did that grapple throw. I don't even really know how I did it, but I did it, and that's key.
You look like you know what you're doing. I'm like, this is perfect. Look at it.
It's such a fun game and easy to play, and that's kind of why I picked it. I didn't really know about a lot of Genesis games growing up because I grew up with Nintendo product. This game was introduced to me a little bit later on in life, and then when I started to play it, okay, if this is easy for me to control and really understand, I'm gonna want to play it again. And I think that's a part of the appeal to it. Okay, there's the rare throw, which is the attack and grapple. There's the grapple throw, and then there's the grapple combo. The grapple combo is probably one of the more strong attacks, a lot of weapon-based attacks. Like you could pick up a lot of weapons in this game. When they developed Streets of Rage 2, like difference from Streets of Rage 1 and Streets of Rage 2 is there were so many weapons, they kept wanting to add more and more and more that they had to stop eventually because there was just so much in the game. The characters in Streets of Rage 1, they each have like different moves too. How you were saying like some of the turtles are faster than others. Yeah. Blaze is known for judo. Her style is judo. Cool. She has jumping and speed, but she lacks power.
Okay.
And Adam, he's a boxer. He doesn't have any speed, but he has a strong jump and he has more power. Axel, who is my second favorite character, he's martial arts and he has no jump, but he has speed and power. Each character, and they each have a different special too, which is funny. So if you look at the Genesis controller, the A button, which is the first button, that's the one that people always press first, right? But they kind of trick you into that because that's your special move. And when you do your special move, it actually takes health away. So you have to be careful with that. Attack is actually the B button and jump is the C button. You have to be strategic when you use that special move. Otherwise, you're gonna use up all your health. Character's gonna get squishy and die. Yeah, your character's gonna die. Basically, in Streets of Rage 3, in Streets of Rage 2, I think Skate is the only one that could run. And in Streets of Rage 3, they added it so that all the characters could run. You would expect to be able to run, like you would expect to be able to like move fast and stuff. In Streets of Rage 1 and 2, they do have a bit of a slower progression through the level, and you can't progress through the level until you defeat all the enemies on the screen. It has a little bit of a slower progress. Streets of Rage 3, which I actually haven't got a chance to play yet, they also did add a new character. In Streets of Rage 2, they added Skate. They added Max, I think it's Max, a wrestler. They added him. Streets of Rage 4, they added Adam's daughter and another character who I'll get to later. Those are the basic controls of Streets of Rage, and like I said, they added the run and stuff later on to all the characters, which is pretty cool. Oh, one thing that's pretty cool too that you can do in this game, but I haven't figured out how to do it myself, is that if you're being attacked, you get thrown by an enemy, you could actually land safely from the throw if you time the button press correctly.
That is so cool. Those little nuances and Easter egg things that are hidden inside of it where it's like, oh, I don't have to take this damage after they threw me. That is super cool.
The game breaker, once you start to learn how to do that stuff in these types of games, you tend to lose health very quickly if you're not paying attention to what you're doing.
Yes, so much.
If you're getting your butt kicked and then you learn those little strats, there's only 3 continues. Well, when I play Streets of Rage 2, there's 3 continues. And that's when I play it normal mode. I don't know if you turn onto harder mode, if you get less continues. I'm too chicken to try that out. But when you play that, that's what you get. If you learn how to do that stuff, once you start to get to the last few levels of the game, it's really hard when you're doing one player. This game is designed for co-op play.
Okay.
Which sets it apart from its predecessors, Final Fight, Street Fighter. They wanted that to be a selling point. Those other games didn't really do that in the console versions. You had to play, if you wanted to play multiplayer, you had to play the arcade version. At that time, home consoles was really growing in popularity. So they wanted to make sure that people were able to do co-op in the games at home. It's always better with a friend.
Yes, it just really is, because even if you both are struggling, you're struggling together. You both gonna be, this game's too hard, right? Oh, I know. I can't believe this game is so hard. Or if you're both doing well, guess what? When you're high-fiving, you're not just high-fiving yourself, you're high-fiving a friend.
Yeah, it's couch gaming. It's definitely way easier. They wanted to make, in terms of the gameplay mechanics, the whole purpose of the game is that you have to fight off these swarms of enemies, right? And they're gonna swarm you. That's how they develop the AI control. They want the enemies to swarm you. Imagine you just playing by your little self, all the enemies swarming you. Then sometimes you have the boss has like cronies with them. It's very difficult. It's very challenging to do it by yourself. Playing with a friend is always encouraged.
Big time. It's such a great way that you explain that, where they wrap around you and now they're ganging up on you.
Yeah.
Right? The only way to properly deal with someone ganging up on you, you got a buddy watching your back.
Yeah. Especially being that each character has weak points and strong points. You'd probably want to pick your pair based on whoever's going to cover that weak point.
That's a great example. Just like with Turtles, the strongest ground character was Raphael, the strongest air character was Donatello. So that same idea, you just described it, match the two that are going to work best together.
Yep. Yep. And one thing that I also wanted to point out that they added in Streets of Rage 2 that they didn't have in the previous one was diagonal movement.
Ooh,
And
okay.
there's diagonal movement. I actually had to cut other aspects out of the game for the programming to be able to fit visual aspects of the game that they had to cut out in order to be able to program for that.
Wow, that's such a cool thing to learn about, because that would make a difference. Like, we don't think it makes a difference until you start to understand how little space, even on these 16-bit games, that's only double the space of an NES cartridge, for example. Those were still limited as much as they expanded upon that. Really cool to hear is that they wanted to be able to add diagonal movement, because that's going to feel more fluid. If you're trying to have a fighting game and your guy only goes, that's gonna feel very janky after a while, right? You know, movement's a pretty cool aspect, but they had to sacrifice a few other things to make it possible.
In the gameplay here, you'll notice there were enemies on bikes. In Streets of Rage 3, I guess it was like a showcase demo of the game that wasn't released to the public. They had them that you could ride bikes in the game, but they took it out. They cut that from the game. I don't know why, but it might have been cool to be able to ride bikes in that game, or at least have that be an aspect of one of the levels.